Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, and this is episode 329. We're recording on February 20th, 2020. You're watching it on the 21st or later. We've got some weird news. Apparently, Black Desert Online is just that damn big. Yeah, it's not free to play, but there's a reason we're talking about it. And then we've got some PlanetSide 2 news that we'll leave you with before we head on over to the bombs. Joining me to go through all of it today, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, and I have good internet, unlike some people who work for MMO Bomb today.
Yeah, right. So it's just the two of us today. Troy is still fixing up some real-life stuff, and Q we had her on here, but... you know, there's precipitation in the area, so the internet...
There's like a tenth of an inch of rain planned for area. That
right.
Wipes out the internet.
It wipes out the internet, the entire thing. So
yeah.
Just the two of us. Might be a little bit of a shorter show, and we're recording a little earlier than normal, about 3 hours earlier than normal. That means something huge like Destiny 2 closing down is guaranteed to happen at like 3 Eastern today after we've recorded this cast. So let's get to the news right now. All right, Jason. So first up, we do the rapid fire round where if there's a bunch of smaller news stories that are kind of worth talking about, there's something in there that we can give some thoughts on or just let the viewers know maybe they didn't read it or see it. We do that occasionally on slower weeks with less big news. Today we're going to do a rapid fire round, but it's kind of bizarre news. Like every single piece just has something weird about it, and that doesn't...
Don't you say that every week, though? We have weird news this week. Yeah, we do. Of course we do. It's all weird. It's all gaming. We're all idiots. Whatever.
No, this is... and I've always, specified, hey, this one's a little weird to me, but let's talk about it. These are all... there's just something bizarre in every single one of them. Now, the major headline might not be all that bizarre. For example, let's just go ahead and give the first one. Warface has released on the Switch. Okay, on the surface, there is nothing weird about that type of story. The shooting game Warface, available on PC and other places, is now available on Nintendo Switch. There you go. What makes it bizarre and kind of weird, Jason, is that nobody knew it was launching on the Switch when it launched on the Switch. It just came out. It was just, boom, released 2 days ago. Hey, all of a sudden it was available on Switch. There was no presser, there was no fanfare, there was nothing. Not even a, this is going to release next week presser sent last week. Nothing. Nobody knew. And apparently, they did it on purpose, Jason.
Yeah, this wasn't like a PR screw up, like the dev team pushed the go live button or something, and the PR wasn't aware, because there were interviews like the day of, or maybe it actually happened like a day or two before. So maybe a news outlet or two knew about it, but they didn't. There was no publicizing of it. But yeah, it just happened without any kind of. There wasn't even like a leak. I mean, granted, it's Warface. Probably not. That's a hot game that everyone talks about behind the back and everything, and I still have to not say Warframe every time we talk about it, but yeah, it's just surprising that they just did it without any sort of I'll give you this one. This one is a little weird. All right, fine.
Right. So Alexei Izotov, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, from My.Games, did actually talk to GameIndustry.biz about this, and they said that they've experimented with several different reveal strategies on previous platforms and believe the best way forward on Switch was to launch the game out of the blue. Quote, "We decided that in order to properly speak about the game, we must be able to immediately show it. We wanted our community to see what we're invested in developing, the Warface franchise." It's so hard not to read that as Warframe in our line of work. Franchise across different platforms, PC, home consoles, mobile, and now Nintendo Switch. And the immediacy of being able to play it right now was very important for us. Now, I get that type of mentality. Hey, we want to be able to show what we're talking about. But we're not talking about a game, Jason, that isn't immediately already available 90 different places that if you wanted to see, oh, hey, Warface, it's coming to the Switch. I don't know what that is. Let me go check it out. you could already. It's not like this game was surprise launched everywhere. It's just the Switch. Just really bizarre. Here's the other thing we should note. If you're going to play this on the Switch, obviously, as is the case with a lot of titles, expect a different performance, let's say. This is the first game using the CryEngine to launch on Switch, and the engine did need to be customized to do it, so the frame rate is locked at 30 frames per second and 720p, and that's only if you're on a television. It's actually 540p when playing on the handheld, which, Jason, those specs, I think just kind of makes this even more bizarre and almost begs the question, why even launch it on the Switch?
Because you can, I guess. You want to get... I don't know. I mean, when I think first-person shooter, right, when I think Switch, I don't think necessarily FPS is some... But maybe they just figured there's a wider market there. I mean, it's there. It's something you can do, and you can get more people and hopefully get some money out of it. As I was thinking, though, it's like, maybe it's not that bizarre to have done what they did, because you think at E3 all the time, something like their big shows, they're like, yeah, here's our game. It's awesome. It's totally awesome. And you can play it right now on whatever. So
okay, but wait,
sort of does happen like that.
Right, but
sometimes.
You're talking about like going to PAX East or going to PAX or going to E3 and making an announcement and surprise it's available. There was no announcement. There was there was not only not a big event that they were at. Take that out of the equation. There wasn't even a friggin' announcement that went out.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. So here we go. Here's another, again, headline. Not all that weird. I'm going to read you the headline. Star Trek Online and Neverwinter players will be able to play on Steam with just one login. Nothing bizarre or weird about that headline, Jason, right?
No, nothing at all.
That's good news. That's good news for STO players and Neverwinter players. Now they have a whole new audience to play with. It's easier to log in, all that stuff. Everything's linked. It's all in one place. This kind of, by the way, going back to something we've previously discussed, even Perfect World seems to be getting away from the Arc launcher at this point.
Well, what was the other game we said? Oh, it's for Torchlight. Yeah, Torchlight 3 is going to be exclusively on Steam or something.
Right. So that was the interesting part of, or the basic part of the story. Where it gets a little weird is what wasn't mentioned there, but then was mentioned literally a day later, like, oh shit, we forgot. Like, I'm not sure what happened here, Jason. What happened?
Because, they didn't mention Champions Online.
Yeah.
It's like, we have 3 free-to-play MMOs. All of them are on Steam, but we're only going to announce that 2 of them can have their accounts linked. And like you said, the next day, they're like, and Champions can do it too, by the way. We're just going to toss that in there. So.
Yeah, and Champions Online got its own little announcement.
Yeah, its own mini
where these guys had to share. And Jason, you did, of course, what Jason Winter does is let me go look at Steam charts, and you found that maybe there's a reason for this.
Yeah, basically, Champions Online has like 1/10 the players that on Steam. It has 1/10 the players that Star Trek and Neverwinter do. So at first, I was thinking maybe they just aren't going to bother.
Yeah,
like what's the point if you have? It's like 2,000 regular for the other 2, and it's like 150 to 200 for Champions. It's like, well, aren't that many players that complain about it? Probably, so maybe we just won't even do it. But I guess they, and yeah, I can't tell if it was a legitimate mistake they forgot to mention it, or if they did it and then we're like, crap, we need to do this for Champions too. How long is it going to take? Okay, an hour. Okay, get that going too.
Yeah, or if it was planned. Hey, these 2 will be available this day. This one will be available the next day. We'll make 2 different pressers. There's like no indication of what actually happened there. Maybe it was totally intentional, but it looks weird. It looks bizarre that the game was omitted, and we were like, okay, kind of makes sense. Lower population, whatever. And then all of a sudden the next day, it was available too. All right. Moving on. So, Jason, you're still with me. 2 out of 2. They do have some weird wrinkles going on in these stories, right? You're with me.
But the thing is, if there wasn't a weird wrinkle, we wouldn't talk about it most of the time. They're all weird to some degree. I don't...
Well, no, that's not true, because we would talk about something just for it being newsworthy. You know, Destiny 2 becoming free to play. There's nothing weird about that. It's newsworthy. We would talk about it.
I'm gonna go back. I have to go back and look at all our previous podcasts. See how often you say the word weird.
You're gonna watch
how often do you describe news as weird?
328 episodes prior to this one. I'll see you in a couple years. Next up, again, headline, normal. Albion Online changes plans to limit alliance sizes. And I don't know if we mentioned this in a show previous or not, but Albion Online was looking to limit alliance sizes to 300 in one of their PvP modes because obviously the bigger alliances were just zerging everybody, which, Jason, I don't think anybody, thought anything of it. Yeah, bigger alliances are going to have an advantage here. It's unfair. Can we do something about it? Albion Online kind of went out and said they're going to test and limit alliances to 300, which that initial news, while not weird or bizarre to me, did seem like why would you do that? Now you have two systems that are working against each other. You want people to band together in alliances and guilds and make bigger guilds and work together and play together. But then for a PvP portion of this, they're getting penalized for that. That was a bit kind of off-putting, I would think, for people in bigger alliances.
It seems like the reason for it was that they say that 300 is the number of people you can put in one guild. So the notion was this could let smaller guilds group up to form alliances that would be on par with bigger guilds. So that was kind of the reasoning behind it.
Right. So on one side in the alliance, you would just have one mega 300-person guild.
Right.
And the other side, you would have, 10, 30-person guilds allying together to take over the other team. And I think my camera froze. Let me get that.
Yep.
That was a very not flattering
That's weird, too.
It is weird. It was a very not flattering freeze frame.
No freeze frames are ever flattering. You're always like...
Right? Well, that's exactly what I was doing there. So now they're going back on this. Now, keep in mind, this announcement was just what? It was like second week of February when they were testing this limitation, like February 11th.
Yep.
A week later, that's out the door. They're throwing it out. They're not doing it.
Yeah, because apparently a lot of people were concerned that meant they would just get purged from their guilds, from their larger guilds. So, yeah, that's let's see what other interest. Yeah, that's pretty much seems like about it. So yeah, I guess that makes sense too. It's like, what are you going to do? You can have the mega alliances, or you can have the smaller ones, and the big are going to beat the small. Like, what were you expecting to happen? Although they do say that part of it is because their population has grown so much over the past few months. So, I guess maybe
that's good on them if true.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the plan, right? Oh no, we're really big. Now what do we do? Yeah, well, that was kind of the plan originally. You should have maybe planned around that to start with.
They are going to implement a new system that will require upkeep on territories taken from alliances that hold 10 or more territories. It'll be paid siphoned using siphoned energy, and if it can't be paid on a territory, then the owning guild will be forced to drop it. They're making some other changes to apply penalties and things like that. So they are still looking at this. The weird part of this for me is we came out with this announcement, Jason. Here's what we're going to do to fix this. And a week later, nope, we ain't doing that. You don't typically see that in gaming news.
Now you got me thinking of how often we have seen that. I'm sure
well, when you're going back through the free-to-play casts, you can
make
a note of those ones too.
Yeah.
This one is just weird, I think. Like, even when you hear the headline, it is not a headline that you would expect to be hearing February 20th, 2020, to be hearing this headline, Jason. EverQuest players planning protest for PvP progression servers. This is original EverQuest, the first one. And there's a planned protest from players to get PvP progression servers. Now, you'll have to forgive me here. I've been out of EverQuest for a very long time. A very long time. But several PvP-focused communities have come together on Reddit, and they're going to stage a protest on the Zek server on February 29th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. They want to flood the server with level 1 ogres in an attempt, I guess, maybe to, cause some lag, close the server down possibly, that type of thing. So, get a bunch of people in the streets. Bring them all to the streets, Jason. Mm-hmm. The weird part of this is I can't get a bead on, one, why? It's 2020. This is really kind of a weird request. This isn't, hey, there's a lot of griefing going on. It's never been fixed. We need this fixed. We want PvP.
More griefing.
We want PvP progression servers, and we're not getting any. And two, I can't get a beat on how serious a protest this actually is, because I can't. One, the main Reddit post that posted about this was pulled down.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
It was. Yeah, if you go over to Reddit, it's gone.
Okay.
There is the post that talks just about what the date and everything is, but the original post is totally gone. Apparently, that one had quite a bit of stuff going on in it that the moderators closed it down. And even if you look at the comments for our piece, Jason, there's a lot of back and forth on this. EQ players saying, this is dumb, nobody wants this. The developers have said, if there was an audience for this, we would have done this. Then there's people that maybe in the smaller, more niche PvP progression server community saying, there are a bunch of people that want this. We've wanted it for a long time. And there is only one PvP server, the Zek server. And, I mean, players, this is, again, players reporting this, so don't take it as gospel. They're reporting, like, 30 active players on a server that supports thousands. So I can't get a gauge on how big a deal this is, how many people want this, and how big a deal any type of protest here is going to be, particularly an in-game protest.
When you have your group of whatever your group is, and I saw this all the time when I was working on different CCGs. When we actually stopped making the Full Metal Alchemist CCG, one of the stores that was really big into it was like, why are you shutting it down? We get like 30, 40 people for a tournament every week. And we're like, yeah, and that represents like half our total audience or something like that. your store is it. So I could see where if you're a big PvP guy and you're on your Discord, maybe you got 50 to 100 people or whatever that are on there saying, yeah, we really want this PvP server. That 100 people might be all of them, just about.
Yeah, and I don't fault them for staging a protest. I mean, if they have a lot of people that want this type of thing and they think this will help try to get it or at least cause attention to it, by all means, go do your thing. I don't like the idea of potentially disrupting other players in the process that don't have a horse in the race either way, but that's the way a real-world protest works, too, right? A lot of people,
that's kind of the point of it.
Exactly, clog up the streets, and then everybody's late getting to work, and they don't even know what the protest is about. So I don't cast any aspersions on the PvPers that want this type of thing, or the people that are just saying your group is too small. There's no reason to do it. It's just bizarre. I don't know if it accomplishes anything, and it's hard to get a gauge on exactly how big this is. And we work in the industry because the game's so bloody old. It only has one PvP server. There doesn't seem to be a huge demand for this. I don't know. I mean, I wish them luck with their protests. I don't think there's any harm in a PvP progression server. I'm not an EverQuest player, though, so maybe you view it differently. But definitely a little bit of weird news. You don't really hear about EverQuest protests. So good luck to them. Last up in this weird news, and this is weird real life. Again, the headline, just bizarre. IRS removes language that might have indicated virtual currency could be taxed. Specifically, Jason, I think they were looking at Fortnite here.
Yeah. V-Bucks in particular.
So what's the deal?
So according to this comes from CNN, which says that the IRS had guidance. They issued it all the way back in 2014 that virtual currency could be treated like property for tax services. Now, for tax purposes, rather. Now, they were talking about it mostly probably in terms of things like bitcoins, cryptocurrency, that sort of thing. But apparently, some of it has bled over into possibly representing things like V-Bucks and Fortnite or whatever other gold and whatever other kind of game you buy or game you play or whatever. So yeah, it's possible that if you buy a house in Arcade, it could be taxed like a real house if you're buying that.
Here's what's funny though. They not only is it wow, wait, what? And okay, you're talking about Bitcoin, and you're like, okay, some of the dollar amounts, and that's an exchange, that's a currency exchange. Those are subject to taxes generally when you're exchanging currencies, real life currencies instead of something like Bitcoin. But man, video game stuff. To follow up, that already being kind of weird enough, the IRS scrubbed all that language, and it's gone. the referencing of V-Bucks or anything. And according to CNN, the IRS on Wednesday took it all out, and there were questions asked to the IRS Chief Counsel Michael Desmond, who told reporters at a Washington conference that including the video game currencies had been a mistake. So don't worry. We accidentally included V-Bucks from Fortnite and other potential video game currencies in our language. It was totally accidental. I don't buy that at all, Jason.
Yeah, the IRS doesn't make mistakes. We make mistakes and pay to the IRS for it. So,
Right.
yeah, and another guy who was quoted in that article, Chief Tax Officer from Jackson Hewitt, Mark Stieber, says, in the law, if it's not specifically exempted, then it's taxable. Nothing is exempt from taxation, which is not excluded from the law. So he thinks that the IRS is going to look into this a little more. Now, you're not going to have to worry about it this year, certainly not this April 15th, but they're going to look into this a little more, and we'll see what might happen. Now, the question is then, could I pay my taxes in, like, skins?
No, skins have no value.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my gosh.
They have no value. Yeah. That's why it's not gambling, Jason. They don't have any value. Yeah. Oh, we're definitely like when you come to taxes or talk about taxes in the United States, the representative from Jackson Hewitt is absolutely right. It doesn't matter if there's language in there for it or not. Unless there's language to specifically exempt it, it's taxable. You know, it's not, well, this doesn't say that V-Bucks are taxable, so therefore they not. Technically speaking, it's the other way around. If there isn't language for an exemption, it is taxable. Now, how you enforce it, I think, is what the IRS needs to investigate a bit more, and probably why they've scrubbed this back for now.
Yeah, good luck getting into every gamer's account and auditing all of them or whatever. It's like, no.
Well, I mean, we've seen it, though, Jason. Like, there were allegations a while ago in some Steam games that, you know, could sell skins for real-life money or gamble them or things like that they were used in money laundering schemes. So there is a flow there that I'm sure the IRS would definitely want to tax if they could.
For the actual selling of for real-life money thing, I could see it. But I don't know. Every time I buy a potion, or if I spend 50 gold to buy a potion or whatever, are they going to get in every single game?
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, if you think about it, I get my paycheck, and I'm already taxed, right? There's a certain percentage of my paycheck that the government withdraws for taxes. And if you're outside the United States, the basic way that works is they're extracted before you even see your checks. And unless you're working under the table, that's different. And then at the end of the year, when you file your taxes, a comparison is made on how much you made and how much you should have paid in taxes and how much the government automatically took. And if you owe more, you paid $5,000, but you owe $6,000, then you owe them another $1,000. If it's the other way, then you are sent a refund. You paid $5,000 when you did your taxes at the end of the year. You only owed $4,000. They send you that $1,000 back. That's high-level overview of how our taxes work. But if you think about this, Jason, you get taxed on your paycheck. Then let's say you're playing, like I've been playing the Elder Scrolls Online for the last week, like 4 or 5 days. I think it's because I'm looking for something to get into and just mess with systems I'm not familiar with, to wait for PSO2 to come out. You know, just get my mind on a different game. Because Final Fantasy, for me, is, you know, I just go and do it. I don't even have to think about it.
Come play Conqueror's Blade with me.
I'm enjoying ESO, actually, and it's bizarre because I never did. I owned the whatever.
How full of your bags?
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started.
Mm-hmm.
So I get my paycheck taxed already. When I go on to, I was playing on the Xbox One, and so I bought some crowns. That was subject to sales tax. So the $50 I got in my check that was $75 but already got taxed, I then have to pay a sales tax on the crowns. And now they're talking about investigating in-game currencies to see if that number of crowns has some sort of tax that could then be applied on top of it. It's like, wait a minute. I've been taxed at every step through this transaction. Mm-hmm. When you handed me the money, when I gave it to Microsoft/Bethesda, and now because I have crowns, I'm subject to tax. I mean, it's getting very bizarre.
That's the part that gets me, is like, because you're going to buy the currency and pay tax on that, then you shouldn't probably have to buy it. Because if you take your money from your paycheck and go and buy groceries or whatever, you pay sales tax on that, but you only pay one more tax. So Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like
well,
if you
remember
convert
the
dollars.
digital stores for a long time here didn't have taxes. Like
Yeah, a lot of them are still kind of iffy about that.
yeah, the PlayStation store or the Xbox store. Excuse me. They didn't even have sales taxes being charged yet. Now they go by your zip code on your profile and charge the applicable sales tax. So yeah, all of that was pretty weird, Jason. You got to give me, there was a weird element in every single one of those stories.
Everything's weird. You're weird.
You're weird. Moving on. So apparently Black Desert Online is just that damn big. We speculated last week as an offshoot of another topic, just, because Pearl Abyss seemed to be buying everything, and we didn't know where they were getting the money. It is, in fact, Black Desert Online.
That's where they're getting the money, yes.
Yeah, and we didn't know how big it is, but Jason, you did. Before we get to why we're talking about Pearl Abyss and Black Desert here, you want to give a little bit of a comparison to exactly how well BDO is doing? And by the way, we don't really have mobile numbers for BDO Mobile yet either, so that's probably going to be pretty interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, comparing the last quarter financials, I was like, because they compared directly because they're using the same currency, the Korean won or whatever. And I looked and they showed that Black Desert Online basically brought in almost the same revenue as all of NCSoft's MMORPGs. Everything that's not mobile. So if you total up Lineage 2, Ion, Blade and Soul, and Guild Wars 2, it was all those combined were slightly higher than Black Desert Online for Q4.
Wow.
BDO alone.
Yeah, that's kind of mind-blowing to me. I don't typically think of BDO as being a huge game, but it is. No doubt. And I mean, it's on all the consoles and everything now, but damn. Why we're talking about this, well, you may know or may remember that Pearl Abyss buying things up. In that process, one of the things they bought up was CCP, makers of EVE Online. Okay, EVE Online isn't free to play except for that weird trial thing, which sometimes we cover if there's news specific to free players, but very rarely. Couple EVE articles here and there. Okay, well, still, why are we covering it? Well, remember Dust 514 that lasted about 3 years? And then Project Legion that never saw light? We were kind of looking forward to Project Nova, Jason, which we understood to be a more focused game than Dust 514 was, and probably would have entered into the free-to-play gaming space, so we were watching it. Now, that's no more.
Yeah, it's gone. They're well, it's sort of gone. I'm a little confused exactly how gone it is.
It's kind of like they just wanted to keep the name.
Well, no, they actually got rid of the name.
Or get rid of the name and keep the assets. Yeah,
yeah, because it came down during the investors call or during some other, because someone notified me on Twitter that I might have been a little off in saying exactly where it was mentioned. Sorry about that. But then we got more information on what they were doing. Massively OP was in on their Discord and showed some screenshots of something that their product director, is that what it is? Game director, Snorri Arneson, wrote in their Discord saying that this was before the call, I think. So he said he wanted to kind of get it out there beforehand. He said, "We are evolving the scope of Nova beyond our previous plans for early access, and the development will continue in our London studio. I'm personally optimistic about this, but also wistful. That also means that the Project Nova code name is retired, and the London team will find a new one." So it's continuing, but under a different name, I guess.
Yeah, we have a chance to still see this game, maybe potentially in an entirely different way, right? Evolving the scope is a pretty broad term and could mean as much as, hey, this was going to be, just throwing this out there, this is going to be a first-person shooter, now it's going to be a third-person RPG. I mean, that is evolving the scope. From viewers, we've got things like, I think they're going to pivot the whole game into a sci-fi Escape from Tarkov clone. It would align more with the full loot nature of EVE itself, and I don't think Tarkov-style games will be cloned as much as BRs were, though, because of a more complex design. It's not as easy and cheap to design compared to a Battle Royale. Just throw an island map and some closing delay ring to any shooter or MOBA, but that's what makes it less repetitive as well. And maybe Treadhead there is right, Jason. It could evolve into something totally different. But for now, at least the name Project Nova is dead, And I probably now would anticipate we're not going to see a lot of news on this for probably a couple years at this point.
No, well, we didn't get a whole lot on Nova. The last time we heard
No.
about that was in like late 2018 where they were doing some tests. So, yeah, well, eventually CCP will put out another game that will stick around for a while. Because you mentioned all the ones before, and then I remember World of Darkness was going to be a thing, and
that broke my heart.
Nah, it wouldn't have been good. See, that absolutely, it is the best MMO ever because it never came out.
That broke.
You can all still love what it could have been. It's up there with EverQuest Next.
I am looking forward to Bloodlines 2, though, so that'll be.
Yeah, true. Well, I think that's actually going to come out.
Oh, it's definitely going to come out. It was delayed, but it'll come out.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Before we move over to the bombs, let's talk about some PlanetSide 2. First off, Escalation update was delayed. It'll now be out February 26th. So, yeah, that kind of sucks if you were looking forward to it. But, Jason, you got a chance to sit down and talk with the team, not only about the delay and I'm sorry, the update itself, but also some of the things that we might be looking forward to in the future here in PlanetSide after the colossal failure of Arena.
I tried to be gentle when I brought up
yes,
Arena.
you did. Reading your questions, you were so gentle.
I was a nice guy, but the update is going to have just a ton of new stuff. We covered it a little bit before. I think, of course, the big thing is the Bastion fleet carrier, a giant, like space. I don't know if it's a battleship or an aircraft carrier. I don't know what it more properly represents, but yeah, that we talked about that a lot. How it's going to be, they consider it almost like the end game of a continent battle. When that thing comes out, then everyone has to deal with it somehow or another. Whether you're part of the faction that pulled that out or not, you're going to have to deal with it. It's going to affect you. You're going to affect it. But there are a lot of other things as well that are coming in. Ability to like airdrop vehicles in, called on orbital strikes, and it's all geared towards outfits. That's what the main thrust of it is: giving outfits more to do, giving them more agency and more power to affect the battles that are going on.
Yeah, and you brought up PlanetSide Arena in the context of another feature being added, Outfit Wars, which actually pits outfits against each other in kind of one-off three-way battle, almost in like a match-based, season-based type thing. And you kind of brought up, look, this is kind of the push you were trying to make with something like PlanetSide Arena, something a little more esports-based, short, bite-sized content, repetitive. Why keep trying it? That's not what PlanetSide 2 is really known for and was what it's unique for, which is the open world big part of it. It doesn't really need these fixed length matches, and they kind of had an interesting answer to this one.
Yeah, and I kind of see their point of it. Like they said that there are people who want that competitive kind of thrust for it, and I get that, but I think maybe the issue is that having that sort of thing available 24/7, which is what Arena was or would have been, or even like on a weekly basis or every few days, whatever they were doing with that thing they were doing beforehand. I could see how that's maybe not the greatest way to do it because it does take away from the open world stuff. It pulls players out of that. Outfit War is going to be basically once a month. That's a schedule they have right now. Top outfits are going to qualify for it, and they can go in and do their thing for like 2 hours or so, and then they'll come back to the main game. So maybe making it a limited time thing. So that doesn't really, it's something you can strive for, but it's something you take away.
Yeah.
You don't take away from the main game for it. So maybe that's the balance they can achieve now.
Two things on PlanetSide 2 before we slide over to the bombs. If you look at when we were originally going to see this update versus when they started talking about it, it looked like the testing phase was only like 2 weeks. Like they had like 12 days for testing. And you actually kind of said, hey, it was an off conversation, right? It wasn't like a direct question, but you were kind of like, 12 days for testing. What's going on here? Surprisingly, this update has been under lock and key and in an NDA-covered test. Kind of handshake NDA, by the way.
I'm about to say, actual NDA.
Not like a acknowledge, click here, an actual handshake for quite a while now, and nobody spilled the beans. I find this amazing.
Yeah, they apparently had, I don't think they said several hundred people, working on this because they organized it with outfits. They got in touch with outfit leaders, people who were influential in that, and then they found some of their trusted people to go on their test server to go in and hash it out. They've been working on it for, I don't know if they didn't give a time frame, I don't think, but certainly more than 12 days, how long they've been working on it. And like you said, there was no NDA. They just trusted everyone not to say anything, and not only were the devs surprised by it, so were the guys actually doing the testing.
Massively covered this, but it's actually not Massively's piece. I think they were quoting somebody else. Polygon. So I guess credit goes to Polygon for this. I happened to see it on Massively first. But PlanetSide 2 team did kind of hedge when they talked to Polygon about the existence of PlanetSide 3. Now, this has to be put into a little bit of context here, because back in 2018 or whatever, there were rumors about PlanetSide 3 being in production. And then Seitz, who you talked to, Andy Seitz, right? He kind of didn't really help things when he wrote a letter to the community describing what PlanetSide 3 might look like. And at the time, it was in the context of what PlanetSide Arena could offer a potential PlanetSide 3. Now, in that letter, he didn't say, we're working on this. But when you pen a letter talking about what PlanetSide 3 might look like, Jason, and why you're doing PlanetSide Arena as a stepping stone, it kind of gets in people's minds, oh, they must be working on PlanetSide 3. So Seitz had to go back and when they talked to Polygon, specifically call out, I did not officially announce that PlanetSide 3 was in development. And I love Massively's analogy here, so credit to Bree on this one. Bree says, which is technically true, in the same way that your little brother putting his hand 1 inch from your arm and declaring, I'm not touching you, is technically true as well. Seitz goes on, like all games and franchises that have been running for almost 17 years, like PlanetSide, we're always thinking about the future. We're not by any means ready to start talking about PlanetSide 3 in any sort of extensive detail. Our emphasis is really shoring up PlanetSide 2. There will be no PlanetSide 3 if we don't continue supporting PlanetSide 2, and we don't continue showing that the PlanetSide experience is just unmatched and amazing. Jason, they're working on PlanetSide 3. They have to be at this point, right?
Well, what comes out first, PlanetSide 3 or Elder Scrolls 6?
But
definitely not Half-Life 3.
I was just going to say I'm going to go with Half-Life 3 and then throw it to the weekly bombs, but you spoiled it.
Damn it, sorry.
All right, let's slide over to the weekly bombs. Don't get my Half-Life joke. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Randy Pitchford. The guy's a fucking idiot. The head of Gearbox, Borderlands fame, and he's done a ton of stupid shit in the past. You may know him most for the
criminal shit.
Yeah, potentially criminal stuff. And there are definitely accusations. But aliens, colonial marines, we all remember that. Randy Pitchford's getting an A-bomb from me because he's such a good CEO, such a good boss, that he spoiled his own announcement prior to PAX East coming out. If you don't know, they're making a Borderlands movie, and that we don't know a whole lot about it, like what it's going to focus on or anything besides blowing things up. But there was going to be an announcement at PAX East about who the director was. It's Eli Roth, by the way. And Randy Pitchford went ahead on his personal Twitter and tweeted about welcoming Eli to the Borderlands family as the director of the movie, put up like a meme picture of it, and then not long after tore the tweet down. So spoiled his own damn PAX East announcement. Way to go, Randy Pitchford. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I didn't know. I didn't hear about that. But now you spoiled it for me, Mike.
Way to go, me.
Well, it's a good thing I don't care about Borderlands. I'm going to have to give an A-bomb to PlanetSide 2 for making that next update sound cool enough that I almost want to get back into the game. So screw you guys.
It is very, when you think about it, it is very, the Empire's Star Destroyer comes in, and then there's just X-Wings and TIE Fighters everywhere.
That's exactly how I thought about it. Yeah. Now, I'm a little sad that I saw in the video that they did, the live stream, it just kind of blows up. Like, I want to see chunks of stuff fall onto the ground.
Right.
And everything, but no, it's just the ship itself vanishes. There's a big explosion. I was like,
From the viewers, FemisX Freak says, played the closed PSO2 beta. I'm very excited for this game to come out now. Me too. Jason, go ahead.
C-Swag does not talk about PSO2 because I figured that's pretty much all they're going to be about because you're selecting these. But actually says, awesome show as always. Please never change the intro and outro. Love it and always have.
The intro and outro will probably be the only thing about this show that never changes. We try different things with formatting or content or whatever, or even hosts, but yeah, the intro, the music is iconic at this point. And no, I didn't just pick. Actually, I think I picked everybody on YouTube that had something to say.
I'm looking ahead
most
of it right now.
Most of it was
PSO2.
We did a PSO2 review on the last show. For fuck's sake, man. Arcona says, I was super impressed with PSO2. Went in knowing next to nothing about it other than Mike liked it, and it was 8 years old. Thought it looked great, played great, and was addicted super quickly. Can't wait for more. Regarding PSO2 inventory, although the bag certainly feels too small, you can now send things to your bank in the field at any time to clear space. And yes, you can, but you're going to fill that up really quickly. Both will feel small. It'll be the first thing that I'm probably buying is some inventory space. Go ahead, Jason.
Yami Kami says, having said all that praise about Legends of Runeterra, I barely played that game. I think I might be burned out on card games too much. Also, why'd you give me this? Also, I have played the best card game in the world quite a lot, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a little sticker from my left side here. She knows my issues with Yu-Gi-Oh! Also, I'd like to mention, Yami Kami, you did not format it correctly. There should be an exclamation point at the end.
Oh, jeez.
That's why I hate it so much. 3 capital letters, 2 lowercase, 2 hyphens, and an exclamation point. F that game. Also known as a children's card game, Yogata's fan will get the joke. About Phantasy Star Online 2, damn if that game had been a thing like 15 years ago, but now I already got Monster Hunter World, World of Warcraft, and other games. I love the aesthetics. Characters look like some kind of Gundam. That part is great, but it just feels like it's too outdated. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to check it out. It still looks like fun. P.S. I haven't seen Elusive X Treasure for a while now. Is she okay?
Well, Elusive, let us know if you're okay. You're famous with some of the viewers now. Like, they all know each other.
I was honestly thinking of her a couple days ago because I was looking at she was the last one who said had an idea from one of my old history articles that I started up and never got to.
She was just had a comment not too many shows back.
Okay.
Hope you and your husband are well, Elusive. And Yami Kami, hey, fair point. I can't argue with if the graphics look too dated for you and you've got other things that kind of fill that loot cycle niche. Perfect example, Monster Hunter World definitely fits in that. Hey, man, I can't fault you. Zhao says, can't wait to not play PSO2 in the EU. PSO2 seems to me like Kritika or Warframe system for lobbies and running missions. Zhao, you are also dead on. Very similar to that rinse and repeat loot cycle of Warframe. Regarding EU, while there is no official launch in EU, there is nothing stopping you from being on your Xbox, swapping your Xbox over to a North American profile so that you can download the game, because that's the only way you're going to be able to download it, be on a North American Xbox, and then swapping back over to your EU profile and going ahead and booting that son of a bitch up. There's not going to be any regional restrictions on Sega's side. Question of the week last week. What could Guild Wars, and there's videos that show you how to do that if you don't know. What could Guild Wars 2 do or announce that would get you back tomorrow? Jason, don't look at any of these.
Okay.
If you had to guess what the number one thing that is going to come up in these comments is, because there is a recurring theme, what would you take a guess at it being?
I would say less of an emphasis on the cash shop.
No. Something they have to add to the game.
Oh, something they have to add?
Yeah.
I
know it's been a while since you've played, so...
Better content somehow. I'm not sure.
There is a very specific content piece that a lot of people here actually bring up.
Don't tell me it's more raids.
No. Nasagra says, question of the week. What the hardcore PvE players will say. More consistent raid/fractal releases and elite specs. What WVW and PvP players will say. Alliances, Swiss, better balance, and elite specs. What would actually boost Guild Wars 2's cash flow? A Kanta expansion.
Kantha should be.
Kantha, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's not your fault. They wrote it wrong.
For me, SAB is now available year-round, and or World 3 will be released this year. Keep in mind that Cantha expansion comment. Go ahead, Jason.
Okay. Yeah, Cantha. Yeah, right. Well, everyone wanted Alona before for the last expansion too, and we're like, and then they came out, and everyone was like, this expansion is kind of Misfit Rants is question of the week. Well, they could offer me an insanely paid game tester job that I do from home. Well, we'll even start today.
I don't think that one's gonna happen.
No.
I think
like,
that
like
one's...
no parts of that. Being well paid as a game tester, first of all, is and doing it from home is another no. So
Michael Ramirez, question of the week: if they announce Cantha, I'd drop life to get back to playing Guild Wars 2.
Scott Francis, question of the week: simple Guild Wars 3. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think that's anytime soon on that one. Lava Slug, the one thing that would bring me back to Guild Wars 2 tomorrow is announced Cantha. That's all many of us want.
Okay, I'm going to go off on a little Jason rant here.
Uh-oh.
Because like I said, that's what everyone wanted. They wanted the Lona because that was from the other expansion, from the Guild Wars 1 expansion. Now they all want Cantha. That's from the other Guild Wars expansion. Learn to like new things. Don't always go back to the old thing. All right, that's my rant. Zach's Proxy says, question of the week: I'm still playing Guild Wars 2. I'm just not buying anything because I don't really need to. I bought Heart of Thorns of release. I don't even have Path of Fire yet. See, this guy didn't even want Alona. He didn't even want the Alona expansion. Yet I still have things to do. Even with over 2,000 hours in game, I barely touched structured PvP, fractals, dungeons, raids, guild missions, holiday event games. If anything, I want redesigns and bug fixes, not new content that people power through in one day and then go back to complaining and memeing on Reddit. That is something. They need better. They need better sustainability, better repeatability in their zones.
Yep.
Because it does seem to be. He is kind of right. Like you get through the story stuff in like a day, and then you got to figure out what to do in the zone forever. So yeah, that's sort of a thing.
Pure Extreme says, would like controller support on Guild Wars 2 or for it to make it to consoles. That's one that, honestly, I'm surprised hasn't already been talked about or in process or anything officially.
I don't remember controllers.
The game kind of does. I mean, yeah, there would be a little bit of challenges, but you could figure them out UI-wise.
Yeah,
the game kind of lends itself to a console-played MMO.
There was talk of that very early on for PlayStation 3. That was something that was going to happen, but it just never materialized. It just didn't happen.
Question of the week this week. Would you ever consider being part of an in-game protest? Or have you been part of an in-game protest before? What would be the ways to make it effective, to get your messages across? Let us know in the comments below. While you're there, make sure you give us your weekly bombs. Dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad in the world of gaming or just in life in general. And if you have a question for the panel, put it down there and we'll ask it on next week's show. Until then, Jason, where can everybody find you?
I'll be on Twitter at WinterInformal, streaming at twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
He'll be playing anything but Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me on Twitter right there at magicman1. But more importantly, follow at MMOBomb so we can tweet at you with all the latest giveaways, articles, first look videos, free-to-play cast, free-to-play weekly, and all the news you could hope for. Until next week, gang, stay safe. We'll see you out on the servers.